When it comes to land near city limits, annexation may be one of the biggest factors affecting what your property is worth and what can be built on it. The process where property outside city limits becomes part of the city. But the process isn't automatic and it isn't purely technical. It's part planning, part infrastructure, and part politics. If you own land near city limits, you may have wondered at some point why your land has not been annexed, why the property next door is in the city and yours is not, or what annexation would actually mean for your property. Hey, it's Evan Zener with Metro Land Pro. I help landowners understand their property and the factors that affect what can be built and how it can be used. I'm licensed in Oregon and assist sellers nationwide. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how annexation works, what typically triggers it, what cities look at before approving it, and why timing matters. Annexation laws vary by state, and the process can look very different depending on where the property is located. The concepts in this video apply broadly across most states in the U.S., especially in areas where cities expand through urban growth boundaries or similar planning systems. But the exact process will depend on local law. If you find this helpful, feel free to like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. Thank you. What is annexation? Annexation is the legal process of incorporating land into a city's municipal boundaries. Before annexation, the land is typically in the county and follows county zoning. In most areas, it receives county level services and does not have access to full city utilities like sewer or city water. In some situations, properties may receive certain city services through service agreements or utility extensions, but they're still governed by county zoning and are not a part of the city. After annexation, the land becomes a part of the city. It follows city zoning and development standards and is formally integrated into the city's planning system. The city also assigns zoning at annexation, which may not always match what a landowner expects. Annexation is often the bridge between county-level land and full urban development. Why annexation happens? Cities annex land for a few main reasons: to expand their tax base, to extend infrastructure efficiently, to guide growth in a planned way, and to bring properties already using city services into the city. For landowners, annexation usually becomes relevant when development is being considered. If sewer or urban level density is required, annexation is often part of the path. The timing question. Timing is one of the most important parts of annexation. To make this concrete, imagine you own 15 acres just outside city limits. Nearby parcels were annexed 5 years ago, but yours has not been. Why? It might be that a sewer line has not been extended to reach your corner yet. It might be that the city's growth plan prioritizes a different corridor first. In many cases, cities also designate expansion areas or future growth areas where they plan to grow over time. If your property is inside one of those areas, annexation may be more likely, but it still depends on infrastructure and timing. If it's outside of those areas, annexation can be much less likely, even if you're right next to city limits. Or it might be that annexing your parcel creates an awkward gap in the city boundary that planners want to avoid. None of those things are about your land specifically, but they all affect when or whether annexation happens. A property may be located right next to city limits, but that doesn't mean the city is ready to annex it. Cities typically look at whether infrastructure is nearby or planned, whether the property fits long-term growth plans, whether annexing the property creates efficient service patterns, whether it creates isolated or awkward city boundaries. Some properties are ripe for annexation, others may sit just outside city limits for years. This timing element can significantly impact land value. Services and infrastructure. One of the biggest drivers of annexation is utilities, especially sewer. Most cities will not annex land unless it can be served by city sewer, city water, have adequate road access, and emergency services. If infrastructure must be extended long distances, annexation becomes more complicated and more expensive. In some cases, the cost of extending services falls on the landowner or developer. This is where annexation becomes tied directly to feasibility. The political process. Annexation is not purely administrative. Depending on the state, it may require city council approval, planning commission review, public notice and hearings, and in some states, even a vote. At a city council hearing, annexation can draw real opposition. Neighboring property owners may worry about changes to traffic, density, or the character of the area. Existing residents may question whether the city can afford to extend services, and sometimes the opposition is not about the land at all. It's about who's developing it or a broader disagreement about how fast the city should grow. Cities also weigh in on their own priorities, which annexations move their long-term plan forward and which ones create obligations they're not ready to take on. Cities evaluate how annexation fits into their broader planning goals. So annexation is not just about location, it's also about alignment with city priorities. How annexation affects value. Annexation can increase value, but only when it aligns with infrastructure and realistic development potential. In many cases, anticipated annexation affects value before it ever happens. Annexed land may allow higher density, allow connection to sewer, transition from rural to urban use, but annexation alone doesn't guarantee development. It still has to pencil out once zoning, utilities, slope, environmental overlays, and market demand are considered. Annexation changes the framework, it doesn't eliminate constraints. How to think about annexation. Annexation usually comes down to 3 questions. Is the city ready for this land? Can services be extended efficiently? And does it align with long-term growth plans? Just because land borders the city doesn't mean annexation is immediate or automatic. Understanding where a property sits in that timeline is often one of the biggest drivers of its value. If you want to get ahead of that timeline, there are a few practical steps worth taking. Talk to your city's planning department. Most are willing to have an informal conversation about where your property fits in their growth plans. Ask whether your parcel is inside the urban growth boundary, and if so, when that area is likely to be scheduled for annexation. And if a sewer extension is the missing piece, find out whether there's a capital improvement plan that includes your area. None of this guarantees an outcome, but it tells you where you stand. If you own land near city limits and you're unsure whether annexation is possible, likely, or realistic, I can help you work through that evaluation and figure out what the city's growth plans look like, where the infrastructure gaps are, and what it would realistically take to move your property forward. That usually starts with a review of the city's plans, infrastructure timing, and where your property sits in that process. That's the kind of analysis that helps you make a better decision about timing, pricing, and next steps. Every city handles annexations differently, and the details matter. You can reach me at evan@metrolandpro.com or visit metrolandpro.com. I'm Evan Ziener with Metro Land Pro, and I help landowners sell smarter and unlock the full value of their land.